Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take these, well, sometimes really dense topics, try to strip back the jargon and figure out what you actually need to know.
Yeah, get to the core of it.
And today, we've got a big one. A single term, really, that sort of underpins and simultaneously challenges huge parts of modern thought.
It's a beast.
We are diving into Jacques Derrida's Difference.
Okay, so our mission, basically, is to give you the clearest path we can to understanding this notoriously tricky concept.
Yeah, elusive is putting it mildly.
Definitely. If you've ever, tried reading Derrida or related theory and felt a bit lost.
Which is easy to do.
Right. This deep dive is meant to be a shortcut. We're breaking down difference, looking at why it's spelled weirdly and what it means for, well, everything. Presence, language, time.
And the sources, they don't exactly ease us in, do they? Straight off the bat, we're told difference isn't really a word.
Or a concept?
Or even a thing that exists in the normal sense.
Mm.
It actively resists being pinned down like that.
It does. Derrida calls it the general economy of a system. Think of it more like a function, maybe. A movement that makes difference possible.
Okay, not a difference itself, but the condition for difference.
Exactly. It's the action before things get defined as specific beings or ideas, which, immediately tells you this is going to be a challenging ride.
Okay, let's unpack it. Starting with the most obvious, kind of strange thing, the spelling.
Right.
Normal French is difference, with an E. Derrida insists on difference with an A. Why? I mean, it looks like a typo or, like you said, maybe some academic inside joke. But it's actually the way in, isn't it?
It totally is. It's a very deliberate, strategic choice. And the key thing the sources highlight is that this difference, the A instead of the E, you usually don't hear it when someone speaks.
Ah, right. They sound the same.
Exactly. So it's a difference that exists primarily in writing, a silent mark.
A silent letter that you have to see to get, but you can't hear. Okay. Philosophically, what's the point of a silent mark? What does that do?
Well, it does a lot because it basically messes with the whole tradition of phonocentrism.
Meaning the focus on speech, on voice as primary?
Precisely. Think about Saussure, structural linguistics. There's often this assumption that speech, the voice, sound that's closer to pure thought, it's immediate. Writing is just, secondary, recording speech.
Because when I speak, it feels like the thought is right there, present to me. Writing feels like a copy.
That's the idea it challenges. By putting in this graphic mark, this A that is silent, Derrida shows that the sound system, the phonetics, doesn't necessarily come first or control writing.
Huh.
This silent difference makes us see that writing and spacing and graphic difference generally aren't just some afterthought. They're fundamental. They disrupt that whole idea of immediate self-present voice.
Wow, okay, that's a huge implication from just changing one vowel.
It really is.
And you mentioned the sources do something fascinating here, linking this silent letter to death and economics. Through Greek, how does difference connect to oikasis, the tomb? That seems like a jump.
It does seem like a leap at first glance, yeah. But oikosis in Greek means a dwelling, a family home, but also a tomb.
Okay.
So the connection Derrida draws, or that the sources point to, is that this silent A functions like something set aside, something permanently absent, but still marking the present, like an epitaph on a tomb.
Ah, so it represents a kind of necessary loss or absence that's built into the structure of meaning itself, a reserve.
Exactly, a reserve. It suggests that meaning isn't just about what's here and now, but it's structured by this silent, inscribed weight of what's not here, what's permanently deferred or lost, like death in the economy of life.
So the silent mark carries history, memory,
Yeah.
things inscribed, but not immediately available.
Yeah, and that pushes the discussion beyond just language into systems of force, memory, even politics and economics, which all operate through these kinds of deferrals and reserves.
Okay, let's follow that idea of movement and deferral, because this is where we hit the real engine of the concept, right?
Yeah.
Moving from the silent letter to the double meaning packed into the word.
Right. The term difference itself comes from the Latin verb differ. And the power of Derrida's term comes from harnessing two distinct meanings that this verb has in French.
And you have to grasp both at the same time.
You absolutely have to. It's this combined simultaneous movement. It's not one or the other. It's both. Always.
Okay, meaning number one, the spatial one, to differ.
Yeah, this is the one we're probably most familiar with. To be different, discernible, not the same as something else. Otherness.
Like cat is different from mat.
Exactly. It's the basic structural difference that allows us to tell things apart. A is not B. It creates the necessary space between elements so they can function in a system like language.
Got it. Simple enough. Now, the second meaning, the temporal one, to defer, This feels like the more radical part.
It really is. To defer means, well, to put off until later, to delay, to postpone.
Like deferring a payment.
Precisely. Or it can mean to detour, to relay, to hold in reserve. The core idea is that meaning or presence isn't fully achieved now. It's always put off, delayed, referred somewhere else down the chain.
Like a promise. The meaning isn't here, but the sign works because the full meaning is sort of guaranteed to arrive later, displaced onto the next sign, and the one after that.
That's a good way to think about it. It's like a promissory note. The value isn't fully present in the note itself, but the note functions because it points towards a future settlement. This temporal delay, this putting off, is fundamental. It's what creates the experience of time and consciousness. Derrida calls it temporalization and spacing.
So we operate always looking towards a future that isn't here yet, using the marks or traces of a past that's also not fully present.
You've got it. The system works through this constant deferral.
I'm trying to visualize this synthesis. It's active, like it's actively differentiating things in space.
Right.
But it's also passive, like meaning is subject to delay. It's always being deferred. How does that work together? Is there a good metaphor?
Well, Derrida emphasizes it's the effect of the verb differer, which itself has both active and passive senses in French. Maybe think of like weaving. Yeah, the act of weaving actively separates threads, differentiation, space. But the pattern only emerges over time as threads are held back, crossed over, delayed, deferral, time. The structure emerges from both actions at once.
Okay, that helps. The continuous separating and holding back creates the pattern.
Right. Difference is that whole double movement, the ongoing process that structures language, thought, reality itself.
So if this movement structures everything, what's its target? What part of traditional philosophy is it trying to, well, dismantle?
Its main target is what Derrida calls the metaphysics of presence. This is a huge tradition in Western thought, going way back, Plato, Hegel.
And what's the core idea of this metaphysics of presence?
It's the tendency to prioritize the present, the immediate, the self-contained, the thing that's fully here right now, as the ultimate source of truth or reality, like that pure, immediate thought we talked about earlier.
But isn't finding that immediate, self-present origin kind of the goal? Why is prioritizing it a problem?
Derrida's argument is that searching for that pure, self-present origin is actually what limits philosophy. It assumes there is a starting point where meaning is full, simple, and untouched by anything outside itself. Difference aims to show that such a pure origin just isn't possible.
Because the origin itself is already marked by difference and delay. It's not pure.
Exactly. Difference isn't an origin in the traditional sense. It's the non-origin. It's the already structured, already differentiating movement that produces all the differences we experience.
So no element is ever truly self-sufficient or fully present in itself.
Never. Its presence is only possible because it relates to what it's not traces of the past, anticipations of the future. Difference is what sets up that whole structure of time and space by constantly relating presence to non-presence.
Let's link this back to language again. Saussure said, signs are arbitrary and differential meaning comes from how they differ from other signs.
Right. But difference takes that idea and, well, radicalizes it. It says those differences we see between signs aren't just there, they are the results of this ongoing movement of difference.
So you can't trace meaning back to some original thing or concept outside the system of differences.
Nope. If you follow the chain of substitutions, the chain of deferrals, you never land on a final self-present meaning. The origin, if you can even call it that, is the movement of difference itself.
This feels incredibly abstract, but the source is connected to very concrete things like energy, psychology, even history. Let's broaden out. How does it relate to Heidegger?
Okay, yeah, this is important, but definitely gets technical. Difference engages directly with Heidegger's concept of the ontological difference.
Right, slow down there. For listeners, what's the gist of that difference?
Okay, the basic idea is the difference between being itself, like the condition of isness, the potential to be, and actual beings, the individual things that are. So the difference between existence and existing things.
And Heidegger was searching for the meaning of being itself.
He was. But Derrida argues that difference isn't the meaning of being. Instead, it's the more fundamental underlying movement that makes it even possible for us to think that difference between being and beings in the first place.
Oh, okay. So it's the condition for asking Heidegger's question, but not the answer to it.
It's the precondition, you could say. And this connects to another Heideggerian idea, the trace, or spur in German. Difference is what produces traces.
And a trace is like a mark left by something that isn't actually present.
Sort of. It's more like a structure of reference where the present thing always carries within it the mark of something else, something non-present. It's not quite a memory, maybe more like a footprint of something that was never fully there to begin with, but its absence structures the present.
That's a useful image, an inscription of non-presence that makes the present readable.
I think that works. The trace means the present is never closed, never self-contained. It's always open, related, dynamic because it carries these marks of deferral and difference. It ensures history and meaning are always in flux.
And we also noted links to Freud and Nietzsche, back to this idea of force in economics.
Absolutely critical. Difference isn't just about logic or language structure. It's tied to dynamics, to forces. Think of Nietzsche's idea of the play of forces.
Okay.
And very explicitly, it connects to Freud's economic model of the psyche. The sources really emphasize this. Remember how difference involves detour, delay, reserve?
Yeah, the deferral aspect.
Well, that's central to Freud's model, especially the relationship between the pleasure principle and the reality principle.
Okay, refresh me. Pleasure principle wants immediate gratification.
Right, discharge the tension now. But the reality principle steps in and says, hold on, we need to take the long way round, consider consequences, delay gratification.
Ah, so that delay, that detour forced by reality, that's difference at work in the psyche.
That's the connection Derrida makes, that necessity of delay, of holding energy in reserve, of taking an indirect path that's the economic function of difference. And it's what connects the concept so fundamentally to history, politics, economics. All complex systems rely on this kind of deferral, reserve, promised but delayed value. Think capital, for instance.
This is definitely a philosophical workout. It really forces you to question basic assumptions about knowing anything for certain. Okay, let's try to sum up. The core idea, difference is a movement.
Right, a movement underlying concepts, but not a concept itself, not an entity.
And it's this paradoxical simultaneous movement of creating differences in space.
And deferring presence over time. Meaning is an effect of this constant relating of the present to a chain of things that aren't present, past, or future. It's never fully here.
So the big strategic takeaway for someone trying to understand its impact.
I think it's that the term deliberately shifts focus. Away from asking, what is the ultimate meaning of being? Or what is the origin, towards looking at the movement, the structure, the system of delays and differences that makes meaning and time possible at all.
It insists that the only origin we can access is this dynamic, non-present movement itself.
Precisely. It refuses the comfort of a stable, present foundation.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If all meaning, all knowledge is fundamentally structured by this silent delay, this deferral, if it's always based on a promise that's never fully kept in the present moment, what does that really mean for our claims to know something, right here, right now? What happens to certainty if the only origin is a movement that refuses to be fully present?
Something to think about.
Definitely. That's it for this deep dive.